Babe, it was just a business meeting. Can we please not talk about divorce? Please. The Ice Queen CEO of Reed Enterprises, Juliana Reed herself, was clinging to my arm in the middle of the corporate lobby, begging me, a DoorDash driver, in front of her entire staff. No, I said, my voice firm. It's over, Juliana. I'm done. I figured a public humiliation like this would be the final straw. She'd get angry, her pride would kick in, and she'd finally sign the papers. But I should have known it wouldn't be that simple. A few minutes later, we were in her penthouse office. Leo. Juliana was a force of nature. She shoved me back into the plush leather of her ridiculously expensive office chair. I was getting antsy. Look, I got another delivery. I'm going to get a bad rating. I'll cover it, she snapped. I don't have a place to live anymore. My home is your home. You know that. I don't want it. Fine. I'll buy you a new one. A brand new mansion, whatever you want. I seriously didn't get it. Every time she screwed up, why did she resort to torturing me with a fire hose of money and gifts? My goal was simple and unwavering. Divorce Juliana Reed. My name is Leo Miller, and I woke up inside novel. I thought, with my knowledge of the plot, I could climb the corporate ladder, marry the beautiful heiress, and ride off into the sunset. The American dream, right? Wrong. I got ice-guyed into the body of a broke DoorDash driver. Day one, some girl grabs the wrong order, and I get a 1-star review and a customer complaint. That night, I deliver a late-night order to a hotel and get taken advantage of by some drunk woman who apparently decided I was her new husband. Date 2, I wake up with a ring on my finger and a marriage certificate I barely remember signing. Only after the ink was dry did I realize my new wife was the story's designated villain, the notorious Ice Queen CEO, Juliana Reed. This woman, she was bad news. Luckily, I didn't just have knowledge of the book's plot. I also had a system. One of its functions let me see a woman's probability of cheating on me. 1. A green progress bar showed the future potential for infidelity. If it hit 50%, that was basically an emotional affair. 2. A yellow bar meant she was currently cheating. Red just gave a raw number of past transgressions. And Juliana Reed. A green progress bar was constantly flickering over her head. Most of the time, it was just a few percentage points, never hitting the 50% mark. But it was enough to keep me on edge every single day, my stomach in knots. I couldn't even blame her. It was her character archetype. Vicious, domineering, unfaithful, a total player. For a month, I'd been making up every excuse I could think of to divorce her before she inevitably ruined my life. Today was supposed to be the day. I was delivering lunch to her office and walked in on her signing a contract with some pretty boy. I took a closer look. Holy crap, it was Ethan Vance, the male lead from the original novel. Right now, he was just some D-list actor, but he was definitely the handsome puppy dog type. It was a chance encounter like this that was supposed to get him Juliana's backing, launching him to A-list stardom. I glanced at Juliana. The green bar over her head was skyrocketing. It blew past 100%. It was climbing toward 200%. That was it. I'd had enough. This marriage was over. Leo, I can explain. Juliana scrambled to her feet and chased me out of her office, grabbing my arm. Which brings us back to the scene in the lobby. For some reason, I always felt like her refusal to divorce me was just a game. Like she was deliberately testing my limits. This time was no different. I had explicitly warned her yesterday. Sign that contract, and we're done. And what does she do? She goes ahead and signs with this pretty boy, Ethan Vance. Like hell I wasn't going to divorce her. This was my chance to set her up with the novel's hero and get the hell out of Dodge. Otherwise, who knows how I'd end up dead in a ditch later on. I believe I told you what would happen if you signed that contract. I said coldly, though inside I could barely contain my glee. This time, she's the one who broke the promise. She has to agree to the divorce now, right? Yes, I'm finally getting out of this hellhole. No more worrying about this psycho cheating on me. And since Ethan hasn't really gotten his hooks in her yet, he won't have a reason to come after me. The two of you can have your little affair, get caught by the heroine, Sophie Wallace, and go bankrupt for all I care. It won't have a thing to do with me. I'd only said one sentence out loud, but Juliana's face suddenly went pale. Leo, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I'll just... She started to apologize, but a few of her senior executives cut her off. Ms. Reed, since when are you married? Seriously, Ms. Reed, this is a bit much. If you needed a guy to run interference for you, You could have asked one of us. Exactly, Ms. Reed, choosing some DoorDash driver. It just makes you look bad. I watched Juliana's expression darken and quickly jumped in. He's right. I'm just a delivery guy. I'm not good enough for Ms. Reed. So, if you'll just grant me a divorce, Ms. Reed, that would be great. I think Mr. Vance here would be a much better fit, don't you? But my words only seemed to make Juliana more distraught, her eyes welling up with tears. Her employees, meanwhile, were piling on with the snide remarks. Wow, for a piece of low-life trash, you got a lot of nerve. You think you could just demand a divorce, right? I don't even believe you're married. But even if you were, Ms. Reed would be the one to initiate a divorce. Who do you think you are? Ms. Reed, if you ask me, you should have security throw this bum out. A frog trying to kiss a princess. Agreed. From now on, Reed Enterprises should ban delivery drivers like this pest from the building. They seemed to think they were making excellent points. I glanced over at Ethan Vance. He was just standing there, a sour, pinched look on his face, lost in thought. You're all fired. Juliana's voice was pure ice. Finish your handovers and go see HR to settle your final paychecks. She then turned her arctic gaze to Ethan Vance. In this endorsement deal, it's void. Send me the bill for the breach of contract. I'll pay whatever it is. Everyone stared, dumbfounded. Ms. Reed, one of the executives started to plead, but Juliana silenced him with a look. Don't make me repeat myself. With that, she ignored her stunned employees and pulled me into her office. I saw Ethan clenching his fists, his jaw tight with rage. Great. Now I've really pissed off the male lead. I needed to get away from Juliana, and fast. Leo, I'm so sorry. The moment the door closed, Juliana threw herself at me. Juliana, don't think. I never understood why. Every time she messed up, she punished me like this. If I hadn't discovered she was a virgin that first night at the hotel, I never would have let her get away with it. Leo, she was so damn bossy, pushing me back in her chair. I have deliveries to make. I'm going to be late. I'll pay the penalty. I don't have a place to stay. Isn't my place your place? I don't want it. Fine, we'll buy a new one. The best mansion on the market. I felt tears welling in my eyes. When would this cycle of torment ever end? Juliana, if I didn't know your true nature, I might actually fall for this and enjoy it. But it's a shame. Your core programming as a vicious, cheating woman can't be changed. An hour later. So, how was that? Juliana asked, breathless, a fine sheen of sweat on her forehead. It was fine, I said, pulling my shirt back on, feeling a bit lighter. But next time we do a back rub, can we pick a different spot? Wait, no, there won't be a next time. Juliana pouted. Every single time, my hands are killing me by the time you finally forgive me. So, seeing as I worked so hard today, tonight, could we maybe? A shiver went down my spine. I grabbed my helmet and fled. Ahem, Mr. Chun, could you look over this file for me? Oh, hey, Sarah, my printer's jammed again. Can you take a look? You, over there. Come here for a second. The moment I opened the office door, the flock of employees who had clearly been eavesdropping scattered like pigeons. I could feel their eyes on me, a mix of envy, jealousy, and even a hint of hatred. I didn't care. Whoever wanted to be with Juliana Reed could have her. I wouldn't stand in their way. In fact, I'd thank them for generations to come. I'm a man. I can't live my life constantly worrying if my wife is going to cheat on me. And Juliana Reed, with her unchangeable character settings, was guaranteed to do just that. Honey, I have a work dinner tonight. You have to come with me. It was 5 p.m. I was in the middle of a delivery run when Juliana called. Nope, I'm busy. I refused immediately. You might be asking, if Juliana is so rich, why am I still working for DoorDash? Because I'm stubborn. I want her to give me money because she wants to, not because I'm begging for it like some pathetic kept man. I didn't want to get any closer to her than I had to. The moment she betrayed me, I knew I wouldn't be able to just walk away, calmly. Babe, aren't you worried I'll get hit on by some other guy? Juliana purred. Wouldn't that be perfect? I sneered. Go for it. I'll see you at the courthouse tomorrow morning to sign the papers. A sports car, she blurted out, panicked. All you ever do is throw money at the problem. I was genuinely getting angry now. What time and where? You probably think I have no backbone. But come on, she's loaded. She was obviously offering the car willingly. so I had no choice but to begrudgingly accept. And hey, maybe this was my chance. Maybe I'd finally catch her in the act. Then I could file for divorce with a clear conscience. I could finally escape Ethan Vance's orbit and stop worrying about him trying to kill me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the plot was deviating from the original novel. I'd realized a while back that my character, Leo Miller, didn't even exist in the book. And Juliana, aside from her unchangeable player archetype, had become incredibly obedient. Clingy even. What the hell went wrong? 6 o'clock. I finished my last delivery and pulled up to the Sovereign Grand Hotel on time. But the security guard at the door wouldn't let me in. Said I wasn't dressed appropriately. And besides, the Sovereign Grand has a strict no-delivery drivers policy. Fair enough. The kind of people who eat here aren't exactly ordering takeout. Without a second thought, I turned to leave. I had fulfilled my end of the bargain. It wasn't TMY fault the guard wouldn't let me in. Now, just as I fired up my e-bike, ready for a clean getaway, a frantic voice called out from behind me, followed by the rapid-fire clack-clack-clack of high heels on pavement. I turned my head. It was Juliana, her face etched with panic, running towards me. Leo. She threw her arms around me from behind. Why were you leaving? If I hadn't come down to get you, would you have just... She didn't finish the sentence, but 2 tears traced paths down her cheeks. She looked so hurt. Juliana, what's with the act? I scoffed. This hotel. It's one of your properties, isn't it? Yes, it is, she said, startled. Then, as if a light bulb went off, she quickly wiped her tears. I know. I'll have it transferred into your name right now. She immediately pulled out her phone and called her assistant, telling them to draw up the equity transfer agreement for the Sovereign Grand Hotel and have it delivered within a half hour. Juliana, I just want a divorce. I snapped, my anger rising. I couldn't even get through the front door, and now you're putting on this show. Who is this for? According to the plot, Ethan is definitely going to show up in our private dining room, play the victim, and win Juliana's sympathy. Then they'll get drunk, get a room, and get caught by Sophie Wallace. Perfect. I'll just sit back, enjoy the show, and gather the evidence I need to finally divorce her. Leo. Juliana was flustered. This hotel will be yours. You can fire whoever you want. But for now, please allow me to fire these idiots who couldn't see who you are. She grabbed my hand and dragged me back to the hotel entrance, glaring at the 2 security guards. Chapter 4. Are you too blind? This is my husband, Leo Miller. Juliana's full CO mode aura radiated from her, and the 2 guards practically fell to their knees, begging for forgiveness. You're fired, she said, then summoned the hotel manager. Take a good look at his face. Don't make the same mistake. The manager nodded profusely, his eyes wide with disbelief, though he didn't dare ask any questions. Honestly, I really didn't want to be at this dinner. I knew it was a setup orchestrated by Ethan Vance to land the lucrative endorsement deal with Reed Enterprises. Leo, why are you so eager to divorce me? On the way to the private room, Juliana finally asked the question, her voice small, her lips pressed tightly together. I shrugged. You're just going to cheat on me eventually anyway. Might as well get it over with. I will not, she said, uncharacteristically defiant, and tightened her grip on my arm. When we entered the room, 3 guys were already there. I recognized them, sons of prominent Chicago families. Jake Wong, Kyle Lee, and Zach Zhang. They were part of Juliana's circle, old family friends. But they didn't know me from Adam. Jules, why'd you bring a delivery guy in here? Jake asked, wrinkling his nose in disgust. This is my husband, Leo Miller, Juliana stated flatly. No way, Kyle said, looking just as shocked. Jules, you don't have to grab some random guy off the street just to run interference. Yes, seriously, Zach chimed in. Besides, the person who actually invited you tonight is someone else, you know. Juliana's face was slowly turning to stone. In that case, we won't be staying for dinner, she said, her voice dangerously low. She looked at the 3 of them. And for the record, you just insulted my husband. Prepare to face the consequences from Reed Enterprises. Jules, you're not joking, are you? Jake looked stunned. Kyle added, Yeah, Jules, we grew up together. This isn't a funny joke. Jules, you can't be serious, can you? Zach said, as if a horrifying thought was dawning on him. I heard a rumor today that the CEO of Reed Enterprises suddenly announced she was married, and that her husband was a delivery driver. Jake and Kyle's eyes went wide. Hey, I cut in annoyed. For the record, I never agreed to be her husband. Even if we have a marriage certificate, I'm still divorcing her. The three of them looked like their jaws were about to hit the floor. Leo. Juliana looked heartbroken. I don't care. I am not getting a divorce. She turned to her friends. You three, are you going to apologize to my husband or not? Because if you don't, your family businesses can prepare for bankruptcy. The trio exchanged panicked glances. They had no idea what was going on, but they knew Juliana well enough to know she didn't make threats like that lightly. She'd used guys as shields before, but she'd always been clear it was just for fun. She'd never, ever called one her husband. This was completely baffling, but it didn't stop them from understanding the very real threat. Apologize, or their families would be ruined. Chapter 5. Leo, my man, my new brother-in-law. Jake was the first to grovel. I'm so sorry. I'm an idiot. I completely misjudged. Brother-in-law. Kyle chimed in, standing up. You're the best. You're a genius. Juliana is the one who's lucky to have you. Zach thumped his chest. Leo, starting tomorrow, I'm quitting my job, and I'm going to deliver food with you. Me too. Me too. Jake and Kyle immediately echoed the sentiment. Leo. Juliana looked at me, her face beaming. Have you forgiven them? I just snorted. If I'd known I was having dinner with you clowns, I wouldn't have come. I missed out on a few deliveries because of this. We'll pay you back 1,000-fold for each one. The three of them shouted in unison. That got not a satisfaction from me. Wasn't much, maybe a couple dozen bucks in missed earnings, but 1,000 times that was still a nice chunk of change. Every little bit helps. Fine, let's just eat. After this, I need to see if I can squeeze in a few more runs. I sighed, taking a seat. I glanced at the three trust fund kids fawning over me and rolled my eyes. The real show hasn't even started. Just wait until Ethan Vance walks in here. Let's see how you act then. Beside me, the previously ecstatic Juliana suddenly tensed up. I had no idea what she was so afraid of. The meal was surprisingly pleasant. But just as I predicted, halfway through there was a knock on the door, and Ethan Vance walked in. Well, Ms. Reed. Ethan made a beeline for Juliana. What a coincidence, running into you here. Juliana ignored him, but he wasn't deterred. He continued. I know you canceled the contract today, and I understand. It's probably because I'm not famous enough yet. But please believe in me. I'll work my tail off. Just give me a chance. He then shot a meaningful look at Jake, Kyle, and Zach. I kept my face placid, but inside, I was buzzing with anticipation. Say yes. Just say yes to him, and I can finally get my divorce. I can finally be free. I know what you're thinking. Handing your wife over to another man. It sounds pathetic. But you're wrong. In the novel, this is Juliana's character. A player, domineering, vicious. I couldn't change her programming. I could only escape before I became collateral damage. Ethan, I'm not working with you. Get that through your head, Juliana said coldly, then snuggled closer to me, tightening her grip on my arm. Ethan's face clouded over. He looked desperately at Jake and the others. Ahem. Jake cleared his throat and looked at me with a sycophantic grin. Leo, my man, are you full? I had finished eating a while ago, but I was sticking around for the drama. So, I just gave an honest nod. Excellent, Jake exclaimed. I'll go settle the bill right now, and then we can all go deliver food with our brother-in-law. Not to be outdone, Kyle and Zach scrambled out of the room, fighting over who would get to pay. And then there were three. Me, Juliana, and Ethan. Ms. Reed is he really your husband? Ethan's voice was low, and the way he looked at me was all wrong. It was like he was looking at the other man in his own marriage. But I was the one with the marriage certificate, even if I didn't want to be. He is, Juliana confirmed. And we're having our wedding in 3 days. I'm going to announce to the entire city of Chicago that Leo Miller is my man. Her unilateral decision caught me off guard. According to her character, she should have been more discreet. Yet here she was, being as loud as possible. This was the third time in a month she'd brought up a wedding. I'd shot down the first two. Maybe I was overthinking it. This was probably just another one of her meaningless promises, the kind she used to string along the men who were hopelessly in love with her. On the day of the wedding, she would undoubtedly dump me for her one true love. And that one true love was none other than the novel's hero, Ethan Vance. Good thing I wasn't one of those men in love with her. Chapter 6 in Chisim is, Reed, Ethan Vance gritted his teeth, his gaze locking onto me. Leo Miller. Can we talk? Alone. No, Juliana said immediately, refusing to let me go. It's fine, I said, patting her hand. Some things need to be settled. Leo, she whispered nervously. You can talk to him, but you can't divorce me. Fine, I said, rolling my eyes. You can go wait downstairs. Okay, I'll be waiting for you. She backed out of the room, looking over her shoulder every few steps. I could see she was genuinely worried. For some reason, seeing that panicked, helpless look in her eyes, I felt a pang of sympathy. That shouldn't happen. My entire goal was to get away from the walking disaster area that was Juliana Reed. Why was I suddenly feeling sorry for her? Leo Miller. I know who you are. The moment Juliana was gone, Ethan's respectful demeanor vanished. He sneered at me. You're just a delivery driver who got lucky. You really think you've hit the jackpot with Miss Reed? Don't get too comfortable. All I have to do is crook my little finger and she'll drop you and come running to me. You just watch. Slap. The sound echoed in the small room. You hit me. Ethan cradled his reddening cheek, his eyes wide with disbelief. How dare you? How could you possibly dare? I let out a short, sharp laugh. You're planning to make a move on my wife. A slap is you getting off easy. I don't know what came over me, making me strike the novel's male lead. Maybe it was because for the past month, Juliana had been so careful and attentive in our strange marriage. Or maybe it was because she hadn't given me enough money yet. Yeah, that had to be it. I needed to cash in as much as possible before she inevitably went bankrupt because of Sophie Wallace. So, for now, I had to stop her from getting involved with Ethan to prevent her from screwing me over too quickly. That slap should make it clear to Ethan that for now at least, Juliana was my wife, and he needed to back off. Leo Miller, you just wait. Ethan spat, his face contorted with fury, before storming out of the room. I knew he'd find another way to get close to Juliana. He'd get to her, humiliate me, and then team up with the heroine, Sophie, to bankrupt the Reed family. I knew how this was supposed to end. I just wanted a divorce to escape the fallout. So why was I starting to worry about Juliana? I really didn't get it. My talk with Ethan ended on a sour note. Leo, are you okay? The moment I stepped out of the room, Juliana ran to me, throwing herself into my arms. The worry on her face melted away, replaced by pure relief. Brother-in-law were all ready. Jake and the guys had somehow procured delivery driver uniforms and e-bikes. It looked like they'd been waiting for a while. Let's do it tomorrow. I rubbed my temples. For some reason, my enthusiasm for making deliveries tonight had completely vanished. But I saw Juliana's face light up even more. That's great. Leo, let's go home. I wanted to take my own scooter back to my rental, but Zach had already snatched the keys and was riding off on it. Juliana giggled and pulled me toward her luxury sedan. The driver hit the gas, and we sped towards her mansion in the suburbs. Leo, when we arrived, she held onto me tightly. The mansion I bought for you, it still needs some furniture. It's our marital home. It has to be perfect. Once it's all set up in a couple of days, we'll move in. But for tonight, you'll just have to put up with staying here. I guess there's no other choice. I realized I wasn't fighting her as much anymore, but I knew I had to stay vigilant. Her core programming wouldn't change. After a shower, I went to the guest room, but Juliana followed me in and locked the door behind her. Leo, her cheeks were flushed. We've been married for a month, and we still haven't. She slipped into the bed next to me. Chapter 7-inch Juliana, don't play with fire. Her warmth was intoxicating, and I could feel my resolve weakening. This woman was a natural-born siren. Leo, she whispered, her breath warm against my ear. Juliana, I sighed, pushing back slightly. There's something I need to ask you. I finally managed to rein myself in. I had to get answers to the questions that had been plaguing me for a month. Juliana nodded. Okay, ask me anything. I'll be completely honest. Do you actually love me? I hesitated for a long moment before the words finally came out. Juliana fell silent. Yeah, I knew it. I scoffed. Why would the great Empress Juliana ever fall for a DoorDash driver like me? No, that's not it, Leo, she protested desperately. I don't know how to explain it. But please believe me, I'm being sincere. Maybe at first it was a gamble, but this past month, I've realized I really can't live without you. Tears welled in her eyes. I laughed coldly in my head. Crocodile tears. You're a hell of an actress. Leo, she said, her voice urgent. What if? And this is a big what if. I told you I know what you're thinking. Would you believe me? I frowned. What's that supposed to mean? I mean, she stammered. I can. Guess what's on your mind? I wasn't buying it. That was just too ridiculous. Juliana's expression was dead serious. Leo, I know this is hard to believe, but I know you were sent from heaven to save me. Save her? More like sent from the gutter. Whatever. Let's just go to sleep. I turned my back to her, letting her hold on to me. But I could see her long eyelashes fluttering. She was faking it. Sigh. If you weren't the infamous Juliana Reed, I wouldn't be so desperate to divorce you. I felt her body tremble slightly, and she hugged me even tighter. What the hell was going on? Whatever. I should be thinking about what Ethan Vance's next move would be. In the original novel, he got the contract, so none of this happened. My appearance must have derailed the plot. But as a veteran novel reader, I knew the tropes. Okay, he'll probably try to manufacture chance encounters with Juliana, stalk her basically, or he'll try to come at me, to force her to cooperate with him. Either way, he's very likely to succeed. Look, since you've been so good to me, I guess I can reluctantly help you out a little. As I thought this, I felt a bit of the tension in my chest ease. The frantic urge to get a divorce wasn't as strong. As I reached over to turn off the lamp, I caught a glimpse of a blissful smile on Juliana's face. So weird. That night, I slept better than I had in a month. I even had a pleasant dream. When I woke up the next morning, Juliana looked like she hadn't slept at all. She had dark circles under her eyes. Couldn't sleep. You don't have to force yourself, you know. I chuckled, but I felt a strange pang in my chest. You don't even like me, yet you pretend to be the loving wife and end up giving yourself insomnia? No, that's not it. Juliana bit her lip. Last night, you were. I was confused. I think I dreamed I was eating a sandwich. Chapter 8, I instantly regretted bringing up the dream. Let's just say I got a very real, very vivid demonstration of Empress Juliana's enthusiasm. Most men wouldn't stand a chance. Leo, I have my high school reunion this afternoon. You're coming with me. Juliana's mood and complexion had improved dramatically. I rolled my eyes. Why would I want to go to some boring reunion? But no matter how much I protested, she wrestled me into an expensive custom-tailored suit and dragged me along. Well, Juliana, another new boyfriend. The moment we walked into the private room at the restaurant, a woman with way too much plastic surgery sashayed over, her voice dripping with venom. He certainly cleans up nice. Tiffany. Juliana's tone was sharp. This is my husband. Watch your mouth. She then turned to me and whispered, Leo, don't get the wrong idea. The other guys were just shields to ward off my family's attempts at an arranged marriage. I know, I said with a small smile. I might be enjoying the perks, but the second your little green betrayal bar hits 50%, I'm still filing for divorce. I thought my response was perfectly polite, but I saw Juliana's expression flicker from happy to tense in a heartbeat. Well, if it isn't the legendary delivery driver husband. A mocking voice came from the doorway. A classic arrogant rich kid swaggered in. I'm just saying, Jules, if you needed a shield, you should have called me. Not this again. I was so sick of hearing that line. Honey, don't be rude. Tiffany rushed over and linked her arm with the newcomer. Ms. Reed just told me to be polite. Anyone could see she was just stirring the pot. I glanced at the red progress bar over Tiffany's new man's head and saw a rather high number. I couldn't help but feel a little curious. So that's Tiffany's husband? Wow, I almost feel sorry for the guy. Talk about being played for a fool. Juliana tugged on my sleeve. Leo, please try not to say anything too direct. Later. Okay, everyone, are we all here? Just then, a sweet-looking girl clapped her hands to get everyone's attention. The class president, probably. The queen of our class, Sophie Wallace, isn't here yet. Tiffany piped up again. I heard she's bringing her boyfriend. As if on cue, two figures appeared in the doorway. It was Sophie Wallace and Ethan Vance, the novel's hero and heroine. Damn, they looked good together. The woman was stunningly beautiful, with bright eyes and a perfect smile, her cool demeanor tinged with a hint of melancholy that made you want to protect her. The man was handsome, with sharp, defined features, though his complexion was a little pale, which gave him a vulnerable look that women probably went crazy for. Speak of the devil, the class president said with a laugh. Sophie, this must be your boyfriend. Very handsome. I know him. Tiffany's eyes lit up. He's that hot new actor, Ethan Vance. I heard he's about to sign a huge endorsement deal with Juliana's company. Sophie didn't say a word, just found a seat at the edge of the table. Ethan, however, shot me a dark look before turning to Juliana. Ms. Reed, what a coincidence. I had no idea you and Sophie were classmates. Juliana didn't answer, just squeezed my arm tighter. I looked at the green progress bar above her head. It had dropped to 0%. A small wave of relief washed over me. At least for now, I didn't have to worry about her and Ethan. Ms. Reed, I really need that contract. I promise I'll work my hardest. Ethan persisted, pulling the class president out of the chair next to Juliana and sitting down himself. I'm sorry, Juliana said coldly. My husband doesn't like you. It's fine. If he wants the contract, just sign it. Just be professional about it. After a moment's thought, I decided to let her sign with Ethan. I had just realized that if I had deviated too much from the main plot, the system would send me a warning. It wouldn't erase me, but it would erase my memories. And without them, I wouldn't last long in this world. Chapter 9. Leo, what are you? Juliana was bewildered. I thought you didn't want me to have anything to do with him. It's okay, I said, patting her hand. I trust you. Tears welled up in Juliana's eyes. Thank you, Leo. The truth was, I knew Ethan was the best choice for the Reed Enterprises endorsement. He was a D-list actor, but he had that puppy dog look that women loved, and the company was launching a new line of cosmetics. Normally, they'd hire a female star, but signing a top actress would cost $100 million. Signing Ethan was only $10 million, but market research predicted he could generate over $4 billion in revenue. It was the smart move. Why would I stand in the way of that? I'd just have to. Keep a closer eye on Juliana. Well, I guess I can reluctantly sign with him, Juliana said with a pout. But I promise you, Leo, I will not do anything to hurt you. I nodded in acknowledgement. Thank you, Ms. Reed. Ethan was ecstatic. I'll do a great job with the campaign. His eyes were all for Juliana, but he shot me a look brimming with challenge. Huh, you think you would have gotten this deal without me? Dream on. Okay, everyone's here. Let's eat, the class president announced, and the room filled with chatter as dinner began. Tiffany, your husband is so good to you. During the meal, Tiffany's husband gave her an expensive ring, sparking a wave of envy among the other alumni. Of course, Tiffany beamed. My husband spoils me. Juliana, what has your husband given you? Reunions always have that one person who loves to compare everything. In this case, it was the serial dater, Tiffany. A sports car, a mansion, a hotel, and a few million in other gifts, Juliana replied casually. Are you kidding me, Juliana? Tiffany scoffed. He's a delivery driver. Where'd he get the money for all that? The table went silent. All eyes turned to me. Wait, he's really a delivery driver. I thought that was a joke. Why would Juliana be with him? He's dressed so well. I thought he was some rich heir. I stayed quiet. Juliana, however, was furious. Those were all gifts from me to my husband. And another thing, Tiffany, you've slept with dozens of men. What right do you have to say anything about him? Tiffany shot up, accusing Juliana of slander. But then, Juliana actually produced proof. I have no idea where she got it. The ensuing chaos ended with Tiffany and her husband storming out in disgrace. Leo, at the wedding, I have a huge surprise for you, Juliana said sweetly, pulling my arm again after the drama died down. The rest of the table stared, dumbfounded. I don't want it. I like delivering food, I said calmly. What do you mean you don't want it? Juliana was getting agitated. None of this would have happened without you. How do you think Reed Enterprises cleared $10 billion in profit this month? It was all your ideas. It was not. I've already discussed it with the board. From now on, you are the majority shareholder of Reed Enterprises. I gave her ideas? I didn't remember that at all. Leo, a while back, didn't you tell me to buy that new crypto and then sell it all after 20 days? Juliana reminded me. Wait, what? The rumors about Reed Enterprises making $10 billion in a month off crypto are true. No way. And Juliana just said it was Leo's idea. I did remember. Sort of. Mentioning it offhand. I couldn't believe she actually did it. Of course, Juliana's explanation didn't completely erase their doubts about me. I had just said it in passing. I never intended to take credit. But at least her words improved their attitude toward me slightly. Chapter 10. Leo. Just then, Sophie Wallace, who had been sitting quietly next to Ethan, stood up and walked toward me, raising her glass. Thank you. Sophie was genuinely beautiful. Every move she made captivated the room, especially Ethan. You could practically see the flames of rage in his eyes. Sophie, you know Leo Miller? Ethan's jaw was tight, his face dark, but he was barely holding back his anger. Yes, Ethan, he's the benefactor I told you about, Sophie said with a faint smile that made my head spin a little. Benefactor? Ethan's jaw tightened even more as he glared at Sophie. What benefactor? Sophie's brow furrowed. The one who helped my family's company get through its crisis. Huh. Ethan laughed, a harsh, angry sound. He's a delivery driver. How could he possibly be your benefactor? Ethan. Sophie's eyes flashed with cold anger. You will not insult Leo. Leo? Ha, isn't that sweet? Ethan looked like he was about to lose his mind. Who do you think I was begging, miss? Read for. Who was it for? It was all so the Wallace family could get back on its feet. And now you're telling me this broke delivery driver is your savior? Sophie didn't answer, just stared at him with narrowed eyes. The atmosphere was thick with tension. No one dared to speak. I just see her as a little sister. I helped her out, I said, patting Juliana's arm as I noticed her jealous expression. I don't know why I felt the need to explain myself to Juliana, but I think it had something to do with that sandwich dream. Sophie, it's no big deal. I raised my glass in a toast to her. Seeing the Wallace family back on track is thanks enough for me. Ethan here was clearly willing to eat crow to get that multi-million-dollar deal from my wife, all to help your family recover. You should see that. Don't take his good intentions for granted. But you're the one who saved my family, Leo, Sophie said, her voice laced with anxiety. If you hadn't told me to buy up all those gin, 3 chips, and sell them within 7 days, we never would have made the $5 billion we needed to cover our losses. The Wallace Corporation is stable now, and it's all because of you. She then blushed and added, My dad also bought you a mansion and a sports car as a thank you. She was right. I had been afraid that Ethan and Sophie would team up to destroy Juliana, and I'd get caught in the crossfire. So I had secretly advised her to buy up all the nearly obsolete gin, 3 chips on a market, and sell them a week later, no matter the price. Sure enough, a week later, a fire broke out at the main chip manufacturing plant. The market was flooded with demand, and prices skyrocketed. The Wallace Corporation rode that wave and recovered all its losses. I never knew why Sophie trusted me so implicitly back then. It must have been her heroin plot armor. Any business venture she undertook was destined to succeed. Sophie, do you remember what you promised me? I asked with a small smile. Of course I do, she said seriously. If that day ever comes, I'll do whatever you ask. Her words made me happy. My goal back then was simple, to make sure she didn't let Reed Enterprises go bankrupt before I could divorce Juliana. And I knew she was a woman of her word. I didn't have to worry about her backing out. But the way Juliana and Ethan were looking at me had suddenly changed. Leo, Juliana pleaded in a small, desperate voice. You can't divorce me. I gently cupped her beautiful face. I won't. Tears of joy streamed down her face, and she hugged me tightly. Chapter 11. Leo Miller. Ethan suddenly yelled at me. I don't care what you did for Sophie. She will always be my woman. I chuckled. I know. I saw Sophie's body flinch. Then she looked at Ethan. Ethan, I never said I was going to marry you. With that, she stood up and walked out of the reunion. Leo Miller, you just wait. Ethan shot me a hateful glare and ran after her. The rest of the room exchanged confused glances. I, however, continued to eat and chat happily with Juliana. Before we left, Juliana invited everyone to our wedding in 2 days. That afternoon, we went to the bridal shop for a fitting and to take our wedding photos. Then she took me to meet her parents. To be honest, I was nervous. Mr. and Mrs. Reed were not known for being easygoing. But when I actually walked into their home, I realized I was completely wrong. They treated me better than they treated Juliana. They were warm and doting, like I was their own son. Leo, my daughter can be a real handful. We're counting on you to be patient with her. Mr. Reed said, pouring me tea. Mrs. Reed and Juliana were in the kitchen, cooking dinner together. Something felt very, very wrong. Why had this entire family's character archetype changed? What did the plot go off the rails? Night, back at the mansion, Things were good between Juliana and me. The next morning, I got up and made her some oatmeal. After watching her eat, she went back to sleep, and I left the house with a wry smile. I still had to work after all, but fate had other plans. I hadn't gone more than a block when something hard hit the back of my head, and everything went black. When I came to, I was in a dusty, abandoned factory. Standing in front of me, his face a mask of insanity, was Ethan Vance. "Leo Miller, this is all your fault." Ethan brandished a knife, stalking toward me. "You're the reason Sophie left me. So now, you have to die. Once you're dead, Sophie will come back to me, and that bitch Juliana will be my woman too. And when I'm tired of her, I'll sell her to some cartel in Mexico and let those animals have their fun." I didn't know what had happened between him and Sophie, but I knew Ethan had completely lost it. He lunged at me with a knife. Ding! At the last possible second, the system, which had been silent for ages, finally chimed in. "Host is in mortal danger. Activate hydroevasion protocol." Hydroevasion. What the hell is that? If the host urinates out of fear, the system can instantaneously teleport the host to a new location. You gotta be kidding me. I was nervous, sure, but I wasn't about to wet my pants. "Ethan," I yelled, "let me do it myself. That way, you won't have to face legal trouble. Let me just kill myself, okay?" Ethan looked at me suspiciously. "You think I'm stupid enough to believe you?" "No," I said, trying to sound desperate. "But I really have to pee. Just let me pee, and then I swear I'll do it myself. You won't have to lift a finger." Chapter 12. Fine, I'll allow it. But don't try any funny business. In the end, Ethan decided to untie one of my hands. He didn't actually want to be a murderer. He still believed he had a bright future ahead of him. He wouldn't kill unless he had no other choice. I strained for what felt like an eternity, and finally, it happened. The moment the stream started, I vanished. My body instantly reappeared at the main gate of the abandoned factory. Just then, a black Mercedes G-Wagon screeched to a halt in front of me, and Sophie Wallace jumped out, her face pale with worry. "Leo, are you okay?" Sophie rushed over to help me up, her cheeks turning bright red as she realized my predicament. "Leo." Another luxury car pulled up, and Juliana, still in her pajamas, ran out. "You scared me to death." "You?" Ethan's voice came from behind me. "Why do you both love this worthless piece of trash so much?" "Fine. In that case, I'll just kill him." By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. Two figures rushed toward me without a second's hesitation. The slender one, Sophie, darted past me and straight for Ethan. The Cavia one, Juliana, threw her arms around me, spun us around, and shielded me with her own back. "Sophie," Ethan's voice trembled. "You'd risk your own life for this loser. Why? Why is this happening? I'm supposed to be the hero. I'm supposed to be your man. Why are you both willing to die for him?" "Ha ha ha, fine. If that's how it is, then you can all die together." He tried to pull the knife out of Sophie to come after Juliana and me. Freeze. In the nick of time, the flashing blue and red lights of police cars filled the area. But Ethan was completely unhinged. He struggled to pull the knife free, but Sophie held on with all her might. Bang! A single gunshot rang out, and the bullet hit Ethan's knife-wielding arm. "Ah!" he screamed, his arm falling limp at his side. The police swarmed him, pinning him to the ground. Ethan knew it was over. He stopped struggling, but he kept muttering, "For a broke delivery driver. You both betrayed me." He was finally dragged away. Sophie and I were both rushed to the hospital. I passed out as soon as I was in the ambulance. I don't know how much time passed before I slowly woke up. Leo, seeing my eyes open, Juliana's own bloodshot eyes finally regained some light. "You scare me so much." Looking at her haggard face, my heart skipped a beat. The doctor told me I was fine, just a concussion from the initial blow, but they wanted to keep me for observation. "I'm okay," I said with a weak grin, giving her an apologetic look. "But we'll have to postpone the wedding." "Leo." Juliana stared at me for a second, then burst into tears of joy. You finally want to marry me? That's wonderful. I knew you loved me, you just didn't know how to show it." I didn't bother explaining, but a strange warmth spread through my chest. When I was able to walk, I went to the room next door to see Sophie. The doctor said she was seriously injured. The knife had missed her heart by only 2 millimeters. But after emergency surgery, she was out of danger. Chapter 13. Half a month later, Sophie woke up. Juliana and I went to see her together. We told her that Ethan had been sentenced to life in prison. A flicker of relief crossed Sophie's face before it returned to its usual calm. Juliana, can I speak with Leo alone for a minute? Sophie looked at her pleadingly. Okay. Juliana nodded, then leaned over and kissed my cheek. I'll be right outside, honey. She left the two of us alone. Leo, do you remember the first time we met? Sophie's face was still pale, and her smile made my heart ache a little. I remember, I said with a soft smile. You grabbed the wrong food order and got me a 1-star review. That was my first day in this world, right before I ran into a very drunk Juliana Reed. You? Sophie started, then stopped. Thank you for saving me. I looked at her, confused. What are you talking about? You saved me. If it weren't for you, I'd be dead right now. Sophie just shook her head slightly. No, you saved me first. Leo, I'm the heroine of this book, and Ethan is the hero, right? What is she talking about? Seeing my confusion, Sophie smiled again and began to explain. Leo, me, Ethan, and Juliana, we're all characters in this novel. You only appeared later. When you entered this world, you hadn't read to the end, had you? I frowned but nodded. It was true. I stopped reading after Juliana went bankrupt. I just assumed the ending was Ethan and Sophie living happily ever after. Let me tell you what the real ending of the novel was. As she spoke, a shadow of hatred crossed Sophie's face. Juliana's fate was also my fate, Sophie said, her eyes filled with resentment. Because Ethan, he's a monster, a greedy, insatiable narcissist. I hate myself for not seeing his true colors sooner. But then you came, you entered this world, you changed the plot, and you saved both of us. I just stared at her, my mind reeling. This was all too much to process. So you're saying, you know the ending of the novel? I had to ask. Yes, she said, looking out the window. I've already died once. This time, I want to change my fate, but I was powerless. I couldn't alter the plot. But you, Leo, you weren't in the original story. You could do what we couldn't. I think you were sent here by the readers who were angry about the tragic ending the author wrote. You're our guardian angel. An angel? Juliana had said the same thing. I still didn't fully believe it. But then again, I'd been transported into a novel. At this point, nothing should surprise me. Leo, do you know? I can hear your thoughts, Sophie said after a long pause. I know you helped me so that I would go easy on Juliana. But you didn't have to. Juliana and I were always secretly working together, trying to find a way to change our tragic fates. But I wasn't as brave as she was. She was the one who got to you first. And with that, everything clicked into place. The reason the plot had been so different for the past month. Sophie and Juliana could both hear my inner monologue. No wonder everything I thought of, they did. Can I be your little sister? Sophie asked, her eyes full of hope. I nodded. Fine. If I couldn't go back to my world, then living in this one seemed pretty good too. Another month later, Juliana and I had a magnificent wedding. Sophie was our maid of honor. 6 months after that, I was standing with a very pregnant Juliana and our very bright third wheel, Sophie, traveling the world. Leo, Juliana said, watching the sunrise over the ocean, her face aglow with happiness. You know, in mathematics, there's a tragic term, unsolvable. At first, when Sophie and I were reborn into this loop, we had no way to change our damned fate. And then you appeared. Sophie continued, and there's a sad term, asymptote, infinitely approaching, but never touching. That's how I felt about you and me, Leo. Juliana pouted. But there's also a powerful term, unique and exclusive for me, Juliana Reed. There is and will only ever be one husband, and his name is Leo Miller. As the sun cleared the horizon, I smiled at them both. Actually, there's another beautiful term, the sum of all parts. Juliana pouted again, feigning annoyance. Sophie's cheeks turned bright red, and she looked out at the rising sun with a silly grin. You know what? I guess I'm throwing my pride out the window, too.